Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to do a truly sweat-proof, humidity-proof, long-wearing makeup routine. I recently did go to a concert and we had a heat advisory and it was 106, I think, heat index, super high humidity. I was really worried, but my makeup looked honestly amazing. It looked so good that even when we got home at like 1 a.m., I could not believe. It looked like I just applied it. So I want to go over the products I used, the techniques I used, and some extra little tips and tricks that really helped me out. So of course I will link everything that I used today down below in my description box. If you're new here, I hope you stick around and subscribe. And if you do enjoy this video and you want more videos like this, give this video a thumbs up and let's go ahead and get into it. So I've got you zoomed in and I want to start on an eye look. I'm going to use the Natasha Denona tan palette and I want to jump into this light color right here with a BK 201. I'm actually going to dip in a little bit to the color next to it, which is Soft Spot, just for a little bit more color. And I want to do something pretty easy on the eyes. This is more about the skin and keeping your foundation and base looking fabulous all day. I'm also gonna dip into the shade Sandal, and I'm gonna use a Rephr 01. I just wanna add a little bit of dimension on the outer edge. And then you can take your first brush and just blend around the edges. And for the lid, I've been loving this eyeshadow from MAC. It's so brightening and it just really awakens the eye. So I'm just gonna take this and pack it on the inner portion of my lid. So I went ahead and applied some of this MAC Blanc type shadow on my lid. I love the matte look and it really brightens, but I do have dryness going on. This is something I've been battling. It's the whole thing. So I'm going to use a shimmer just to go over that because no matte is going to go over that smoothly. I think I'm going to use a little bit of mixture of Villa and Celeste. I don't want something too crazy, but I just want to soften that textured area. For liner, I'm gonna use my Judy Doll Slim Liner. This is so precise and so tiny. It is a brush tip, but it sets down and it does not move. So I find that it's just really easy to control, but also perfectly long wearing. I have no smudging, no bleeding, nothing of that sort. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a winged liner and then we'll go on to mascara. So I have the rough shape and then I just go in and clean up. And if you make a mistake, this is why you do your liner first, because you can go back and adjust. So I went ahead and curled my lashes and I'm gonna use my Holy Grail brand for mascara. The Clio Kill Lash mascaras are unbeatable. They do not fall, they do not droop, they do not transfer, they are waterproof, they just keep their curl. There's something special about them. And this one I'm gonna use today is the 20 Bouncy Lash, but they have a bunch of different versions. So I'm just going to coat my lashes. If you want something that is not going to run, if you're gonna be out in the heat sweating, or even at the pool, Clio mascaras are unbeatable. I do get a little bit on my lid usually, but I'll just use a spoolie to remove once it dries. So while I let the mascara dry so I can flake off the little marks, I am gonna move on to skin. So I have some tips and tricks. The first one is I was worried about sweating because I am somebody that sweats a lot in my hairline and on my forehead. And usually when my makeup starts to come off, it's because I'm actually dripping from my forehead. So because it was literally like a heat advisory and we were gonna be out in the heat for a while, I went ahead and purchased this and tried it and it did work. So this is something called Sweat Block. I will link it, but these are antiperspirant wipes. So here's the thing, they're not meant for your face. I know there are specific versions for your face. It's something that I would use only for like special occasions. If you're somebody that has a problem area that is sweating profusely, this really did help. Now they say to use these at night before bed. I didn't. I actually used one just right before the concert. So I just took it out. It says to dab and not wipe, and then let it dry for 5 minutes and then go on about your business. So I just took this, I blotted just on my forehead area and then let it dry for 5 minutes before going in with my skincare routine. And I did not have any dripping or anything like that. And usually I am like dripping on my forehead. So it definitely worked. I will say that it did tingle and kind of have like an itchy feel. So that's something to note. Again, this is not something that I would use every day. It's for a special occasion. If you're really heavy sweating somewhere, I think it's definitely worth trying if you know what you're getting into. And then the skin prep. So after I let that dry, I went ahead and used my 2 favorite products. So I started off with my Bioma Milky Toner. I absolutely love this, and I loaded this on because we're gonna be using products that are long wear. I wanted to really make sure that my skin was hydrated, and this is such a nice toner to wear under makeup because it's very thin and you can build it. So I was quite generous. I think I probably did like 4 layers and really gave my skin a couple minutes to really soak this in. I had to pull my hair back, it was driving me crazy. Again, just layering this and giving yourself a good 5 minutes to let this settle in. It doesn't add any texture, it's not sticky, but it is nice and hydrating. Next, I'm gonna add a thicker moisturizer. This is the BabsBeauty Dream Barrier Cream. It is holy grail for me. And I did take about 3 or 4 pumps. This is so hydrating, and it has that really nice like slip to it. It's not sticky. It just kind of smooths your skin out and really does work great with makeup. Plus, this gives me just intense hydration because again, when we're going in with products that are long wear, usually we're going to be using more powders, matte products. So I really wanted to make sure that my base was well hydrated. And of course, especially if you are going to be out in the sun, but really every day, you definitely want to be wearing a sunscreen. So I opted for the Super Goop Unseen Sunscreen. This is SPF 50. This is an oldie but a goodie. And it's really nice because it kind of doubles as a primer. It has this silicone slip to it. So I just loaded this all over the skin. And because it's that unseen formula, it's not going to add any like stickiness or change your foundation finish. So for me, this is definitely a go-to when I want long wear. So that is everything for the skin prep, but now I want to get into foundation. So when I was thinking about what foundation do I want to reach for that is just long wear, not going to move, not going to budge, unfortunately, I did use the original Estee Lauder Double Wear. This formula is undupable. It is the best of the best. Here's the problem. They reformulated it. It's different now. It doesn't stay as shine-free. It doesn't wear quite as well. It's really disappointing. I have some that I had previously, and then I purchased some right when they announced the formula change. So I actually have multiple bottles. You can still buy the original Double Wear, and I will link down below at different retailers if you've been wondering and you're like, I don't want the new formula. You can still get your hands on the old formula at specific places. Now, if you can't get your hands on this, I do have 2 other recommendations. They are the closest to this and the longest wear that I personally have in my collection, and I've gone through multiple bottles of both. I have to say that the She Glam Long Lasting Matte Foundation is phenomenal. It's a thicker formula, it has great coverage, but it is just super long wearing. It's matte like the Double Wear. It does not budge. Truly all day wear. I've gone through multiple bottles of this, so I definitely recommend this if you can't get the Estee Lauder or if you want a, you know, affordable option. And then my other pick would be the L'Oreal Infallible. This is the Fresh Wear. So this one is thinner than the She Lamb, but again, very similar in their wear. They both just wear all day long. They don't crack, they don't slide off, they don't get oily. They're both phenomenal. If you want really intense matte, like more on the matte side and more of that like full glam, I would say She Glam. And if you want more of that like breathable, buildable, still matte, but not quite as matte, I would go for the L'Oreal Infallible. So today I'm gonna use the Estee Lauder because that's what I used when I went to the concert. I have a few shades here. I'm gonna see Desert Beige. I also have Sand. So I'm just gonna kind of make a little cocktail. So I went ahead and put a little bit of Desert Beige on my hand, and I'm actually gonna take a little bit of Fresco. This is a cooler tone. I just kind of custom mix depending on my tan, and I don't have one on right now, but these are all like self-tan shades for me. To apply, I'm gonna use a BK Beauty 115 brush. Let's see what this color is looking like. Yeah, I think it's okay. So I just use a stippling motion, and this is a really thin feel, but very impactful. That's the word I'm looking for. It is matte. So it's one of those formulas that is not going to add any dew, any hydration, but it is going to almost feel like a lightweight layer of paint on the skin. It's not an everyday foundation for me personally, but if I were someone that, you know, worked as a nurse or, you know, I had to wear a mask, I was really sweaty, I would reach for this. And it does provide really great coverage. It's very thin and buildable. So if you did not want like a heavy feel, you could thin this out very easily. It's quite smoothing too. Like if you look at my pores, I did not use a pore primer, but it's just smooth, great coverage. You probably wouldn't even need to add a powder if you don't like to, or if you want less of a powdery finish. I'm a powder girl, but it just really sits beautifully on the skin. It's very frustrating that they changed it. Totally worth the hype. So foundation is on. I'm gonna move on to my cream products. So I'm gonna use my Say Dew bronzer. This is in the color Swim. It's very warm, but it just works for me because, again, it's very thin. And I think that's something that I enjoy when I can really build products up and they don't add heavy, sticky layers to my makeup. So I like to apply this to give myself some color. And you would think that this wouldn't work with the Estee Lauder because this is dewy, but because it is so thin, it does layer just fine. I don't have any issues using this with a matte formula. So I just like to really work it into my brush and then go around the perimeters of my face. And this is a warm tone. I have other ones from Say, but I don't know. I just like how this really warms the skin up. And once you powder on top, it definitely settles down. Next, I want to go in with blush. And again, I want to use something that is thin. I do often mix or like custom make colors. So I'm going to use this Kosas blush in the color Muse. I haven't tried this yet, but it looks really pretty. I've tried this formula, but I haven't tried this color, but it's very thin and buildable. So I'm going to take this and then I'm going to take a little bit of my Armani cheek tint in the color 50.5. I like to just add in a little bit to lighten it up and add a little bit of warmth. So I'm just gonna take that on my hand, and I like to work off my hand. So I'm gonna mix them and then just start applying. So it gives me that like sunburnt sort of look. And I do bring it quite far up under my eye. You can also take just a little bit to tie in to your forehead And to clean everything up and really brighten, I'm gonna use my favorite concealer. This is the Charlotte Tilbury in 3.5. This is a phenomenal formula. It is so full coverage. It's smoothing, it's not drying, it's not heavy. So I like to apply here. There for a while, I was applying too close to my eye, and I noticed it was just getting really cakey. So I calmed it down and applied here, and I like to let it sit for a minute or so and then blend it out to get the maximum coverage. But this is really going to blend into the blush and bronzer. Everything's gonna look seamless. And then we're gonna go in with powder, and that's gonna really lock everything in. But this is a fabulous, fabulous concealer. It is probably my favorite product that Charlotte Tilbury has ever come out with. To blend this out, I'm gonna use this Patrick Ta concealer brush. I really like this for just blending precisely, and then you can flip it over and use the fluffy side to blur with your blush. But I'm just using pressing motions and then just stippling up to get that coverage. And then I just flip the brush over, and this is where you can diffuse the edges. I do also like to go back in with my brush that had the blush on it and just make sure everything is blended. So now that I have all of my creams on, I'm going to set with powder. I'm somebody that sets my whole face. I just feel like it locks in my makeup, makes everything look smooth and airbrushed. And if you're going to be in the heat, I would definitely recommend setting. So I'm gonna use my L'Oreal Infallible. This is my favorite. I've gone through countless jars, but I wanna make sure that I don't have creasing before I start applying. So just make sure you're buffing out any little creases. And I do like to use a powder puff, but another trick is instead of just dipping in and going, I dip in and then swirl so that I have an even coating of powder on the puff. You can also use the palm of your hand. It's just something I've noticed really helps to get an even set. So I'm just going to start on my under eyes, and I do pressing motions with a light hand. I've also found that sometimes if I'm too heavy-handed and I use too much pressure, I can almost like lift concealer or other products. So I really try to focus on the areas that I am gonna get the most oily or sweaty, which would be right around my nose and my mouth. And then I usually like to go heavy on my jawline, and then whatever is left over, you can stipple over your actual like blush, bronzer. I know some people don't set that, but I personally just set everything. I like everything to be cohesive and smooth. If you can see the difference, I'm already starting to, to get some of that texture coming through, just your natural oils and adding a bunch of products on top versus the side that's set. It just locks it in and makes everything look really smooth. So now that we have everything set down with powder, I'm gonna go in with my powder products. So I love this Prisme Libre bronzer from Givenchy. A couple of the squares, actually I think all three of them are matte, but then this one has a little bit of like a satin finish. I like that it's also more buildable, so I don't find it to be hard to blend. I like to add this on with my Huda Beauty diffusing cheek brush, something that is slanted so I can do more stippling motions. So I'm just gonna load my brush up, and then I like to press. This is just going to further lock in whatever cream bronzer you applied, but also add a little bit more definition, because obviously when you set with powder all over, you do lose a little bit of that intensity. This just really makes me feel like I've been, in the sun on vacation. So this is definitely one of my favorites. For powder blush, I'm gonna use one of my favorite formulas of the year. This is the Tom Ford Powder Blush in Crushed Rose. And I'm gonna apply this with a Morphe Face M100 brush. These are so pretty. They're pigmented and just really blurring and smoothing on the skin. So again, we're just kind of building to blend everything, but also just add more of that like locked in long wear feel. So I just really build this up, and I am someone who is heavy on blush. And if you do get a little over the top, I just take a flat powder brush and blend around, but I love a lot of blush. So I'm next going to apply some highlighter, and another new favorite has to be this Tom Ford in Capri. This is so stunning. I cannot rave about this enough. It is crazy intense, and it really like lightens up the face. If you want, you know, something more subtle, you can definitely do more of a subtle application. So I'm just gonna kind of do something in the middle here. I don't wanna go crazy, but I do like to have that nice shine. I'm also gonna take a little bit of that on my inner corner. And then something I always like to do just to really sculpt and brighten, I'm gonna go back in with my L'Oreal powder, and I like to apply this underneath my blush and bronzer. It just cleans up anything that maybe got a little low, and it really just like brightens and makes everything look just more sculpted. So I know I look a little wild right now, but I'm gonna let this bake while I do my lips. So I wore this lip liner to the concert, and I have to say that I tried this in a Trying New Makeup. I liked it, and then as I've continued to use it, it is phenomenal. It does not budge, so much so that at the end of the day, my lipstick will be off, but this lip liner is still intact. And I also love how it applies. It's not overly creamy, it's not overly thick. It just wears beautifully. So this is the Bosma lip liner. I have two different colors here. I'm gonna use the deeper color today, but I have the shade 03, which is more warm, kind of pinky. And then the shade that I use the most is 02. It is stunning. It is a really pretty kind of brown nude. So I love how thin this formula is. You can blend it out if you want that smudged look, or you can just apply it full tilt and it does not move. So this is what I would opt for if I wanted something super long wearing. This lasted all day. Like truly, it was 1 a.m. and my lip liner looked like it hadn't been touched. I also love that it is not thick. Sometimes the longer lasting formulas can be really thick and they can kind of bunch up in the corners of your mouth, but this does not do that. And it's not overly slick, so you have control. So just to show you, I mean, it's literally not moving, and I am pressing hard. Super, super long wearing. For lipstick, I'm a huge fan of a blurred matte lip. So I like something that is kind of like a soft matte powder finish. I wore the Makeup Revolution. I think these are called like the whipped lip creams. And to give you an idea of the texture, it is that powdery whipped type of feel. So I get a longer wear than a standard lipstick, but I don't get the like dry, cracked feel or look. So this is what I wore during the concert. Some other options, the Vive Powder. This is again, one of those more silicone type formulas. The Vive is more hydrating, and again, it depends on which one you prefer, but the Vive has more of like that silicone hydrated feel. I also am a big fan of the Iconic London. These are the Cloud Kiss matte lip mousses. This one is more like the Makeup Revolution. So these are some of my like go-to formulas. I also love the Anastasia Beverly Hills Lip Velvets. Those last so long and they're a little bit thicker and more matte. But I want to try today this new Liquid Matte Mousse Soft Blur Lip Cream from Huda Beauty. This was sent to me in PR, and I'm just curious to try this. I have a feeling it's going to be similar. So this is the lightest tone or shade, which is baby pink. This is going to be like right up my alley. So I'm just going to apply to the center of the lips. It just gives you a really like blurred look, but it's gonna last longer than a standard lipstick, but it's so lightweight. So I like to apply, that is a really pretty color, and then blend in and then fine tune with the liner. This Huda formula feels really, really lightweight. Very, very like weightless. I cannot even detect it on my lips, and it feels quite hydrating. It does have a scent to it though. It almost smells like a little powdery. It looks really beautiful, and it feels literally weightless. Like you cannot even feel it. I want to see in terms of longevity. Okay, so it looks like the Huda, it blurs or like blends a little bit, but you still have that pigment there. The Vive is more of like that silicone that blurs away, so I would say not as long lasting. But again, like these Makeup Revolution and the Iconic London seem more similar to the Huda, where a little bit will come off on your drink or if you kiss your partner or whatever, but you're still gonna have that base there that's gonna hang on for hours, which is why I personally like to reach for this type of formula. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of press the powder in that I had baking. I sort of stipple it in to really brighten. And then as a finishing touch, I do take a little bit more highlighter. And then I do also use my Freck pen and I mark in my moles because they do get covered up with the makeup. And to finish off the makeup and really lock it in, I like to use a really intense setting spray. So I have a bunch that I like, but I just thought, you know what, let me go for the tried and true. So I use the One Size Until Dawn Waterproof Setting Mist. This is intense. It smells intense. It smells like hairspray, but it really locks your makeup in. I doused myself with this. It says to keep it 10 to 12 inches from your face. And it's one of those sprays that even when you spray it, you almost don't feel it because it has like a powdery finish. But I like to get a little bit closer and really drench myself. And I do believe that that in comparison or in combination with everything else that I wore kept my makeup looking flawless. It does give you a little bit of that tight feeling. It's not something, again, that I would use every single day unless I had to. Like I said, if I worked outside of the house and I really needed my makeup to last. Now, before I go in with this, if you do feel like at this stage you're a little bit powdery, our mosquito sprayer guy is here, so hopefully that's not too distracting. But I would go in with the powder melt or a hydrating setting mist if you want to melt your powders in. You feel like it's a lot of mattifying products for you. But honestly, I don't feel like I look powdery or dry, and that's the magic of the Estee Lauder, but also just layering that really nice skincare underneath. So I would use this first if you feel the need to, and then lock in with a setting spray like this. So I am just going to spray the skin. And I don't want to be wasteful because I'm not like going out of the house all day today, but I'm talking like really coat yourself. Like whatever I just did, 3 times that, and just really get in there. And you can see that you can't even like tell that you put a setting spray on. You can't really feel it. It just kind of settles everything down and kind of like suctions it in so it doesn't move. So I'm gonna get my hair situated and then we will do the outro of this video. All right, guys, so I think that is everything for this sweat-proof, humidity-proof, long-wear makeup routine. I hope I gave you some useful tips and tricks and also some product recommendations if you have a demanding job or you have a festival or a wedding or a vacation and you want to look pristine in the heat. And I'm talking a heat index of 106, crazy humidity. So I will link everything that I shared today down below in my description box. I will also add some of the alternative options as well. But let me know in the comments if you've tried any of these products or what you think about how these products perform. And also let us know if you have any hidden tips or tricks or products that really make your makeup hang on all day. But I hope hope this video was helpful. If it was and you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, I hope you stick around and subscribe. As always, thank you guys again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.